My name is Karl Deutsch. I'm a graphic designer. This segment is on how to design a colorful newsletter. So to create a good newsletter, you need to set up your document, and setting it up properly the first time is important. Let me open a new document here. This is just going to be a simple 4-page newsletter, and you want to make sure your facing pages is checked. And I'm just going to do a simple 8.5 by 11 newsletter. So what this means is each page will be 8.5 by 11. You'll print this version, if it's 4 pages, will be on one 11 by 17 sheet that's folded once. It's a very basic newsletter, very common. You see it used quite often. I'm sure we've all received those things in the mail before. So 4 pages, 8.5 by 11. I'm going to click OK. So as you'll see, I have a front page here, the interior spread, and then the back page. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with setting up my grid for this. And you do that under the layout palette, margins and columns. So here I have my margins all set up. Columns, I'm going to do a 3-column grid for this. And set up 3 columns, see how that drew in the guides. And then increase the gutter a little bit. I've got a nice 1/4-inch gutter with 3 columns. I'm going to click OK. And you'll see that that only applied that to that first page. So I'm going to need to go back here and select all 4 of these pages. You click on page 1, hold down your Shift key, click on page 4. So now all 4 of these pages are selected. Go back to my margins and columns, and you'll see how now there's nothing there because this first page is already set up. So I'm going to go ahead and override all of that. 3 columns and a 1/4-inch gutter. So now that applied it to all 4 pages. So now I have a very consistent grid on all the pages. So everything should be good. Now I'm going to draw in Masthead. I just selected my text box tool, clicked and dragged. And this is called Powder Hound. That's a little too small for a masthead. So holding down my Shift, Command, Option keys, I'm going to increase the size of that. That's too big. A little smaller. There we go. That's my basic masthead. Nudge that up a little. And here I'll start with my body copy. So I'll draw in another text box. In this case, I'm just going to insert some placeholder text. It's just Latin text. As you'll see, unless you speak Latin, you probably wouldn't understand any of that. Now this is just a single column box. In order to make it 2 columns, you go up to your toolbar here, and you'll see there's that option. You see the little column icon there. Make that 2 columns. It doesn't quite line up with the grid there. So I'm going to go to, I'm just going to hit Command B. It gives you your text frame options. And increase that gutter a little bit. Remember how we made our margins with the 1/4-inch gutter here? I want to make sure that that's the same. So now that lines up. If I want to put in some sort of a sidebar here, I can include that there. Usually sidebars will have some sort of a something to offset it from the rest of the text, whether it's sort of a screen behind it like this, and then you lay your text over that, somehow to separate it from the rest of the page. You can also do, if you don't want to do a sidebar, you can do a 3-column story here and just add another column to that. As you shrink this down, you'll see the text flows into the 3rd column. Placing an image, so it's going File, Place, or Command D. As you'll see, all the keyboard shortcuts are listed off to the side. And locate, let's see, newsletter, links, summit. There's my image. I always want to have some kind of an image on the front page. I'm going to shrink that down, holding down my Shift and Command key and grabbing these anchor points. I can make it larger or smaller. And add a simple black border to it. So that's kind of the basics on getting the first page of your newsletter done. Now, if this story doesn't fit here, and you want to jump it to another page, you certainly can. You see that red box there. You click on that, and that loads the rest of your text. So I'll go to page 2. You can drop that right in there. So as you increase maybe the size of the text, it's going to flow into that page. Zoom out a little so you can see that. So it'll flow with it. From here, you pretty much just need to figure out how to organize all your information. But the most important thing with this is to keep in mind this grid. Because if you start breaking that grid too much and going too far out of the boundaries of it, it's going to look really unorganized and unprofessional. So keep all of those elements in mind. There's a lot of information to include in a newsletter. My name is Karl Deutsch. I'm a graphic designer, and that segment was on how to design a colorful newsletter.